What up, YouTube? This is part 2 of how I built my mini motorcycle. So, part 1 was all about the frame, the motor size, and the size of the chain and sprocket back there. So, this is part 2, so it's all going to be about the clutch. How I designed it and built it was, first when I was building this bike, I was thinking, how can I make something where I can have speed and have torque? When, mini bikes and motorized bicycles that, just have a Briggs & Stratton motor, they can either have one of two things. They can either have speed or they can have torque. So what I was thinking, was, is there some kind of design or some kind of clutch that I can build without buying a bunch of parts or putting on a dirt bike motor or a ATV motor that already has gears? How can I make something, just from a Briggs & Stratton have 2 gears and, have speed and have torque? So this is what I came up with. As you can see, it's just 2 belts, and both belts have different sizes of V-belt pulleys, or whatever you want to call these things. I think they're called V-belt pulleys. So anyway, so this is how it works, and this is the size. First, the sizes of these things. This is first gear. This belt is first gear. This is second gear. In first gear, this thing, why is this thing blurry? There we go. This thing back here, this is 2.5 inches, and it goes to an 8-inch. And then in second gear, it goes from a 3-inch to a 5-inch. So therefore, in first gear, you step on this thing, which tightens the belt, therefore giving traction right here, therefore moving you, so therefore you step on this, you get going, you hit the gas all the way, you take your foot off and hit this. This is second gear. When you step on this, it tightens up. When you're not stepping on this thing, this thing is just slipping right here because this is loose. You have to make sure, if you are building this thing and if you are designing something like this, and if you want to build it, I would really recommend it because this thing is fun as crap. So I'm just making this video of everything you need to know on how to do this. Why is my camera so freaking blurry? Jeez. Anyway, so you have to make sure these belts, when you're not stepping on these, you have to make sure they're loose. And you also have to make sure they're aluminum. It says Chicago Die Casting 300A. So, I got these, everything here I got at Tractor Supply. So if you have a Tractor Supply where you live, you're set. So, that's, these, so that's the sizes. Again, 2.5 inch to an 8-inch to a 3-inch to a 6-inch. First gear, second gear. That's how you do it. And with this kind of design, you want to make sure, because you're thinking, ooh, maybe I could put this on like a homemade ATV or something like that. No, I've tried that. It's really hard to do it while you're flying around the corner and you're trying to hold on and you're trying to keep your foot, on this peg. This kind of clutch works best on bicycles and motorized bikes, and I've also tried doing 3 gears. Which is something for me to do in the future. I just haven't had enough. I haven't had another motor or anything else to try it yet, but that's something for the future. So, if you want, you can try 3 gears, but, if you want to just do 2, 2 of them works perfectly. So, it only really seems to work with, bicycles, something where you can lean into the turns, and something, where you can do that. So, I did the sizes, and try to bear with me because trying to explain this thing is kind of really hard. Making sure I'm trying to making sure I explain it to where you can understand it. And then, so how I built it was, obviously this is self-explanatory. You just take these. Why is it so blurry? God, this camera sucks. Anyway, you just attach these onto here. This is a 3/4 inch shaft, I think. Yeah, 3/4 inch shaft. So therefore, they just slide on. Put a key in there. You're able to put 2 of them on here if the shaft is big enough. You gotta make sure the shaft is long enough. And then how you attach these is there. If you get, come on, focus. If you get the right pedal assembly, there's gonna be a 3/4 inch shaft sticking out enough. I had to take 2. I don't know if you can see that. I had to take 2 hubs and weld one to here, and then weld this hub to this hub, and then I welded this sprocket right here to this hub right here, and then there on the second hub there was a hole, and I just stuck this shaft all the way through the hole, and then welded that the shaft onto there, and then welded this onto here. So hopefully that that's understandable, and that's how you attach these. How you attach these things is all you gotta do is for the first gear, start on the back, weld a shaft, and then weld something to slide on it, and then weld something from there. Go behind the sprockets, and then go to here, and then make like a little assembly. Just anything will work that spins freely on here. Just make sure it's small. These are 2 these are 2 inches, and then it goes up, attaches to a spring right here. Make sure these are spring loaded, so that therefore they spring back up. Otherwise, it's just gonna want to take off as soon as you start the motor. And then weld a shaft onto here to where you can step on these, and make sure it's not too loose. Make sure there's no play in it. It can have some play, but just try to make sure it doesn't have play. It especially doesn't rock back and forth. To where it pops up, and when it pops back down, it seats right on the belt. Make sure it does that so it doesn't pop off the belt. Here's the second gear, same thing, only in the front. I welded a shaft onto here, and then a tube that goes over the shaft, and then I welded onto the tube another tube, and then this attaches to something that bobs up and down. Make sure it's even with the belt, so when it pops up it seats right back down on the belt. Make sure it's spring loaded, and and make sure, try not to have especially second gear, try not to, the first gear doesn't really matter because it's a really small sprocket. See how it's almost exactly above the thing, so therefore the only thing that's in contact with it is probably like 1/4 of the belt, of the V-belt pulley. So try not to make it to where it's all the way wrapped around here, and then you step on this thing and it's really tight on here when you're not stepping on these. You have to make sure that these belts are probably like 3 to 5 sizes too big for this thing, and that's the key to making this clutch work. You have to make it really loose. See how much slack is in here, and then you have to make sure they're not too loose to where you really have to step down on these really far for these to tighten down. There has to be about and in first gear there's only about an inch of up and down play, and there's probably like 2 inches of up and down play. And also one other thing is, try to get used belts, but not too used. But if you do have to get new belts, this thing is going to really want to take off as soon as you start the motor, because there's really a lot of traction on here. Just keep riding it, and the belts will wear down to where they're perfect, to where you can start this thing. You kind of have to hold on to the brakes, otherwise it wants to go. It's kind of like a automatic car. An automatic car, you release the brake and the car just kind of starts to roll, and then you hit the gas and it keeps on going. It's kind of like the same thing. You just release the brakes and it starts to roll, and then you'll step on that and it'll start going. So to show you how I ride this thing, I made up this rig. This is my GoPro attached to a bicycle handlebar, and I'm just gonna attach it to right there, just like that. I'm going to take it outside right now. It sucks because it's kind of raining, and show you how I ride this thing. So let me try to keep explaining everything you need to know about building this. You have to make sure they're kind of old belts. Again, make sure they're really loose. These just really, especially if you put a big sprocket on here. You could just do a really 1-inch sprocket on here. Make sure it's aluminum. This is aluminum right here. The one back here is not aluminum, but it's really old, so therefore it's really not high tension, not high friction, whatever you want to call it. So make sure these are low friction V-belt pulleys. Otherwise, it's going to really want to take off on you as soon as you start it. And hopefully that's enough explaining of how I built this thing. And if you have any questions, write in the comments below. I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. And yeah, let's see. I'm going to set the GoPro up and see how this thing works. Okay, this is just a little video showing how the clutch works. Basically, what it is when the motor's running, you just got to let off the brakes, which, there we go. When you let off the brakes, it starts rolling, and don't hit the throttle right now, and you press down on the first gear, first peg, and let the belt tighten up, and then you can go up any hill. And right now I'm going up a hill, so I don't pop it in a second yet. And then once I go around the curve, the basic thing is, you rev up the throttle all the way, and then let go of the throttle and the first clutch peg, and then at the same time, and then press down on the second throttle, on the second gear peg, and the gas at the same time. So it's like a synchronization. Let off the, pop it into first, or let go of first, and then pop it into second while you're doing the gas. It sounds confusing. It's the same kind of confusing thing with automatic or manual cars. Manual cars are really hard to ride at first, and then once you get the hang of them, they're easy to ride. So this is kind of the same thing. So and what you have to do is when have enough speed and you're going fast, when you let off the gas, you also have to let off the clutch. And when you're holding down the gas, you also have to hold down the clutch, the second gear clutch. So, it's kind of like the same thing of an automatic or a manual car. Sorry, a manual car. You gotta you shift with your feet, not with your hands. With this thing, you shift with your feet. So hopefully that makes sense. Right now, I'm going to stop at this hill. This is a really steep hill. This is not the steepest hill I have, and I'm just showing you how well this thing runs. You turn up the throttle just a little bit when you're down a hill, and then you slowly push down on the first gear, and then it just slowly gets into, tightens up the belt, and therefore then you get going. And then once you're halfway up the hill, you could keep it in the first gear all the way up the hill, and which is what I'm doing now, and I'm at the top of the hill right now. There we go. So hopefully this is not too confusing. If you have any questions, go in the comments below, ask any question, and yeah, thanks for watching, subscribe, and have a nice day.